Let's open up to where we are. We're on page 33b, Lamed Gimel Lamed Beis, and we're learning over here. Well, we had a very complicated Gemara before, where the Gemara was trying to figure out if the how to recite the Havdalah on a Saturday night that is a holiday, and we concluded the Gemara with an interesting thing that that the rabbis said. It was Rav Yosef who said that we are so lucky that Rav and Shmuel established a pearl in Babylon, and the prayer that we recite, he called it a marganisa, this precious gem. And that's the prayer that we recite on a Saturday night. That's a holiday. So initially, the Gemara was unsure where to say it, how to say it, because it doesn't really fit. The prayer is a different prayer than the regular Saturday night. If it's a holiday, there's only 7 blessings, and the blessing where it should fit is the das blessing, the blessing of knowledge. We don't say that on a holiday. Anyway, and then the Gemara went through the fact that that there was a question. Maybe we should follow Rebbe Eliezer because that would be the alternative option. If you don't have a blessing of knowledge, then you have the Haidah, the Maidim, the last 3 blessings of thanks. So maybe that would be who we should follow in such a scenario if you don't have the other option. And the Gemara sort of dealt with what one rabbi asked the other one, is it true that we follow that opinion? And he answered, yes, the halacha is that way. And the halacha follows this Rebbe Eliezer's view. And the Gemara dealt with the fact that, is it appropriate to use the word halacha in such a case where no one really argues? And the only one who does argue is Rabbi Akiva, whose view is totally not applicable. We totally don't consider Rabbi Akiva's view in this case as a valid view, and the reason is because he's changing the number of blessings to the Shmona Esrei, which is an absolute no-no according to the way the Gemara understands. We definitely don't want to do that. And what I think the reason is because when the rabbis established the prayers, they had Kabbalistic ideas of every detail, and so to go and switch around the number on the number of blessings, it just didn't fit within the vocabulary of the later rabbis to go and switch take such a drastic measure. Yes, Yehuda.
But originally it was 18 brachas, and now it's 19. So they did change it.
You're right. They did change it, but the change of the V'lam al Shinim, that change, it was not a simple thing that they changed it. In fact, they looked around to search for someone who was capable of making that change. In other words, it was like an emergency. They changed it as an emergency because of the tsaris that the Jewish people were having from the nations, and from Yidden that were from the V'lam al Shinim, the Yidden that were Meistrim, that were slanderers to the government, and the Minim, the Tzedukim, and whoever, all the enemies, the Zaydim, all the the tsaris that the Yidden went through, that was like an emergency. And even when they established it, it was a very fragile matter to establish such, until they found Shmuel HaKotan, I think it says, who was willing to that he was the one who established it. Like it wasn't easy. It wasn't like they just said, oh yeah, let's just add another blessing. So here because there are alternative methods, the rabbis don't want to establish a blessing that's going to change the numbers. But you're right. There was a case where there is a case that we did make that change, but I think it had to do with it being an emergency. I think that would be the answer.
So Shmuel was the one who made the final decision?
One of the Amayroim, his name, or maybe a Tana, Shmuel HaKatan. Have to look up in the book which Shmuel that is.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the Gemara then said that there are different views as to what to do on a Saturday night. One view is that halacha follows Rabbi Eliezer. Another view was that halacha doesn't. We're not sure if the halacha follows Rabbi Eliezer, but if someone asks us, we would tell them that. And then another view is even the rabbis agreed with Rabbi Eliezer on a Saturday night that falls on a holiday that you included in the end of the Shemona Esrei. And then we had a Reb Chia bar Abba who said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan that if someone said it like Rabbi Eliezer, you're fulfilled your obligation, but you're really not supposed to do that. And Reb Zera said, Reb Chia bar Abba, he is the one who you should follow because he is a very exact. And if he said Reb Yochanan said this, then that's what Reb Yochanan really said, because he was very precise in repeating things exactly the way his Rebbe said it, similar to Rechava, who used to repeat things the way his Rebbe said things. And that's what the Gemara says, which seems like the Gemara, Reb Zera is telling us that we should not follow Rabbi Eliezer's view. We should follow the way Reb Chia bar Abba said it in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, that if someone did follow Rabbi Eliezer's view, it's okay. He doesn't have to go back, but that's not the preferable way to do it. And then Rabbi Yosef tells us that the way to do it is the way Rav and Shmuel did it, and they established this marganisa, this pearl in Bavel, this prayer that they're calling a pearl. And the way it was established is not like Rabbi Eliezer, but instead it's more similar to the way the rabbis have it. Now, yesterday I mentioned that it specifically emphasizes here the way it's done in Bavel, that they established it in Bavel, in Babylon. And so I mentioned that it was specifically established for the Babylonian community or outside of Eretz Yisrael, this prayer. But the question is why? Why would it have specifically been established for the people outside of Eretz Yisrael? And the reason is because the people outside of Eretz Yisrael, we have 2 days of Yom Tov. For us, it falls out much more often to have a holiday after a Shabbos than it falls out in Israel. Because to have a holiday after Shabbos is we have two options. We have 2 days of holidays, in the beginning of the holiday, at the end of the holiday. Very good chance of having a Yom Tov fall after Shabbos. And therefore, Rav and Shmuel wanted to establish a wording for the Atoch and Antana, for the Havdalah. In other words, it was much more applicable outside of Eretz Yisrael than inside Eretz Yisrael. And so they established a wording that would fit right into the blessing, the intermediate blessing. And that's what we say. Now, we actually follow that halacha. But I did mention yesterday that I wonder what that means. Did in Eretz Yisrael, did they not follow this, or did they take it on? And I did find that the Rashba brings down, he says from Reb Hai Goin, he brings down that in Eretz Yisrael, they recite a fourth blessing on its own. That's what Reb Hai Goin, meaning he was from right after the Talmud was over, that's when the Goinim, the time of the Goinim were. And like somewhere from the year 500 for a few hundred years. And this Rav Hai Goin tells us that in Eretz Yisrael they didn't actually accept initially that recital, and they used to recite it as a bracha b'fnei atzma, as a bracha on its own, and that is surprising to me what he says, because our Gemara seems to be very clear that Rabbi Akiva's view is not supposed to be done. We're not supposed to recite, add an extra bracha. So I'm wondering why in Eretz Yisrael initially did they do that? I don't think now there's anyone that follows this, because even the Rashba says, Mihu anan hatakinon lon Rav Shmuel Marganisa Bavel V'Taydienu. He says, for us, Rav and Shmuel established this pearl in Bavel V'Taydienu. But so I'm just, it is interesting, something to think about. How did the people in Eretz Yisrael follow Rabbi Akiva's view? Rabbi Akiva's view, our Gemara seems to push it totally aside. So I'm wondering if maybe because Rabbi Akiva, maybe in Eretz Yisrael, maybe they didn't follow necessarily the conclusion of the Babylonian Talmud. I don't know. It's an interesting, definitely something to look into. I did not see any commentaries on that. Yes, Ben.
I think Rabbi Akiva was in Israel, and there they saying it's Margalit Bavel, so it's not necessarily including Israel. He didn't say this is the way for everybody.
No, I understand that. It's just our Gemara, the earlier Gemara seemed to be very adamant in saying that we do not follow Rabbi Akiva's view.
Because he's in Israel.
All year round, we don't. If anyone we should follow, they felt that we should follow Rabbi Eliezer.
Yeah.
That's what our Gemara seemed to conclude. So I'm wondering how there must be some other source, maybe a different Gemara. The only thought that comes to mind, well, a few thoughts come to my mind. One is that Rabbi Eliezer was put in Cherem. And because Rabbi Eliezer was put in Cherem, maybe that's why they said, well, we can't follow the rabbis because we don't know what they hold. We can't follow Rabbi Eliezer. I guess our only choice is Rabbi Akiva. So that's a thought that I have, that maybe they didn't follow Rabbi Eliezer because he was put in Cherem. So maybe that Gemara sort of, it sort of contradicts this Gemara, which says we should follow Rabbi Eliezer and not Rabbi Akiva. And that Gemara seems to say not that way. So that would be maybe a thought. The other thought would be that from the fact that Reb Chia bar Abba says Nirin, maybe they understood from there that Reb Chia bar Abba says we definitely don't follow Rabbi Eliezer. So if you definitely don't follow Rabbi Eliezer, and rabbis we don't know, so maybe that would be the reason. Maybe, in other words, it was based on Reb Chia bar Abba's statement that we're not supposed to follow Rabbi Eliezer. If someone did, they fulfilled their obligation, because he says the word nirin, which means it's okay. But we definitely aren't, preferably, but we're not supposed to follow him. So maybe based on that, maybe that's why Rabbi Akiva, in Eretz Yisrael, at some point they used to follow Rabbi Akiva's view. Now,
so he says it's not a lacha, it's just nirin.
Nirin, which means actually it means the opposite. It means you really shouldn't do it, but if you did it, it's okay. So I'm taking from that to mean that you're really not supposed to follow Rabbi Eliezer, but we also don't know what you're supposed to do. The only one who we know for sure what you're supposed to do is Rabbi Akiva's. We definitely don't follow Rabbi Eliezer because he says only Nirin.
Right.
And we don't know what the rabbis hold, so maybe that's why they would follow Rabbi Akiva. In any event, I'm not sure, but our tradition is Batoidienu. We have the Gemara here very clear, but what the real question is on this Gemara is what makes this prayer so beautiful that the Gemara is calling it a pearl? Rav Yosef is calling this a pearl. What is so beautiful about this prayer? So the one of the commentaries says a beautiful thing. He says, if you're going to make Havdalah on Saturday night, that's a holiday. Okay, you're making Havdalah, you're reciting Havdalah, and you're saying how Hashem separated from the holiness of Shabbos to the lower level holiness, the holiday, right? Because Shabbos is more strict. You're not allowed to do malachas oichel nefesh. You're not allowed to cook on Shabbos, and carry things on Shabbos. So there's more holiness. We know that Shabbos is considered holier than the holidays. Now, if you're going to make Havdalah on a Saturday night, that's a holiday. What you're really going to be doing is mizalzel on the holiday, on the holiness of the holiday. You're going to be saying something that's not so respectful about Yom Tov. On Yom Tov itself, you're going to be saying something that's disrespectful. And so the beauty of this prayer, and this is it's such a important vart, that they were able to minimize that deficiency that we have on Yom Tov and emphasize 4 great things that Yom Tov gives us. In the prayer itself, they were able to merge these things together, which sort of minimized the disrespect of Yom Tov. That's what's so beautiful. What did they say? So if you look at the words of this prayer, again, we're on 33b. I'm just going to show you the words. It's right before the Mishnah. The big Mem Tuf Nun Yud is the Mishnah. So right before, there's a few lines of this prayer, Vatui Dienu, 5 lines. So if you look through the words, it talks about Zmane Sasoin, that on Yom Tov there's a mitzvah to have Sasoin, V'chage Nedava. However you translate it, we translated it yesterday to mean that there's also an extra day of Yom Tov. Yom Tov, we have special, a additional day. And, or it could have other meanings as well, a special Chagei Nedava. You can't translate it as a karban Nedava because on Yom Tov you're not allowed to bring a gift sacrifice, but it definitely could mean a second day Yom Tov, or it could mean that it's it's like a gift of Hashem that He gave us to celebrate. In other words, not only did Hashem take us out of Egypt or gave us the Torah, but He also gave us a holiday to celebrate. So Chagei Nedava, like a gift holiday, and Terishenu Kedusha Shabbos, the holiness of Shabbos, fine. The Kvoid Moyed, the beauty, the honor of a Moyed, which has to do with the fact that there's a mitzvah to have special clothes on Yom Tov, even more than on Shabbos. So Kvoid Moyed. In Chagigas Haregel is the sacrifice called the Chagiga that we celebrate on Yom Tov. We bring a special sacrifice, and all of these things he mentions in this prayer. So when they created the text of this prayer, they added these 4 items of beauty of how Yom Tov is so important. So even though they're mentioning that and Hashem separated between the holiness of Shabbos and Yom Tov, but at the same time it's emphasized the greatness of Yom Tov as well. These 4 inyanim, 4 things of the celebration on Yom Tov, and in this way it minimized the embarrassment or the disrespect, so to speak, to the Yom Tov. And another commentary says that it's really what it says at the end that's so beautiful, is that the holidays are holy, Shabbos is holy, and the Jewish people are holy. That it emphasizes these three things. That's what made this considered a pearl. In any event, you have these two insights, very nice insights. But what I think it brings out, this idea, I know there is a custom not to sing Shalom Aleichem out loud on Yom Tov. On a Yom Tov that falls on Shabbos, not on a Saturday night. A different scenario. If Yom Tov and Shabbos falls together, so there's a custom not to sing Shalom Aleichem out loud. And the reason not to sing it out loud is because you don't want to embarrass the Yom Tov. That the Yom Tov doesn't. We don't normally sing Shalom Aleichem, and now you're going to sing it out loud. It's sort of like a mezalzel, I guess. You're dishonoring the Yom Tov by singing Shalom Aleichem. In any event, this could be the source maybe of that the reason why we're so careful to recite this, showing how we try not to say anything that would give an insult to the Yom Tov. Maybe this is the source of such a minhag. Yes, Ezra.
I would think it would be just the opposite. And the reason why I would say that is because when you think about what you're doing on a Yom Tov, you don't even say Shalom, you don't even sing Shalom Aleichem. You don't even do anything special other than saying the bracha, on the wine, and you mention, the holiday, etc., and then the Shech, the blessing, and then Shechianu. You don't sing, but when it falls on a Shabbat, the fact is that you're enhancing the holiday because of Shabbat itself. And so saying and singing Shalom Aleichem, you're giving it a higher level than it normally would have. So I would have thought it would be the opposite.
I guess you could look at it both ways. I'm not disagreeing, and I understand. It's not necessarily the accepted minhag. Of course, in most of Klal Yisrael, they do sing Shalom Aleichem, but I'm just sharing. Maybe this is a source for that minhag, which I think you could see it this way as well. That if you emphasize the specifically the songs that they sing only on Shabbos, and you emphasize how the angels specifically escort you on Shabbos and not on Yom Tov, I could see that maybe that could be considered like a dishonor for the Yom Tov, but I don't know. I guess you could look at it the other way. Yes, Ben?
I wanted to say, I saw beautiful things when I stayed in Florida. The neighbor had a wife that was in a wheelchair. And on Friday nights, when he came from synagogue, he used to sing her Malachi Shalom in the hallway while he was pushing her from the elevator to the unit. He would sing her the songs, and I thought it was a beautiful thing. So Ezra is right that it's, the holiday seems to be a little less than a regular Shabbat.
Right. Okay. So then we have the Mishnah that we learned yesterday, and that is that if a person says that Hashem's mercy reaches the nest of a bird, we quiet him down. If a person says for good, God's name should be mentioned and praised, we quiet him down. If a person says, Moidim, we thank you, Hashem. We thank you. You quiet him down because he says it twice. And the Gemara tries to explain, these cases. The Gemara says, the person says, thank you. Especially, I think, you have to understand this Mishnah in the context of the time that they were in those days, where there was idol worship, there was, I believe, I don't know, in the Mishnah, there was Christianity there. There was other religions, and and idol worship. And so, nowadays to us, it sounds surprising that anyone would want to worship, idols, or anyone would want to worship any deities. But the Mishnah is talking about in those days before the rabbis removed the desire that humans have for idol worship. So we don't feel any of that desire anymore. But there used to be a desire that people would have to worship idols. People had like a very spiritual desire, and the rabbis couldn't control it because it was getting out of hand. The rabbis made several fast days and prayers, and they abolished that from the hearts of mankind, that we no longer feel that desire. And so when someone would say moidim, moidim, thank you, in their prayers, it could have meant, or it looked like, that they're praying to two gods, which was not uncommon. And the next statement, that al toiv yizacher shemecha, God's name should be mentioned for good things, it sounds like you're only thanking God for the good and not for the bad. And we know you're obligated to thank Hashem for the good and for the bad, because things that look bad, we know Hashem has his reason to give it to us, and we should be appreciative and thankful to whatever God gives us. Because ultimately, everything that God gives us is good. Ein ra yored milmaila. No bad comes down for heaven. Teva hatoiv lahetiv. Hashem only wants, the nature of good is to do good. And of course, Hashem only wants to do us good and the best. So if a person said only for the good things we should praise Hashem, that would not be acceptable. We'd quiet him down. And then the Gemara explains, what is the reason of kan tzipor yagiu rachamecha? If someone says that God's mercy reaches the bird's nest, that we would quiet him down. The Gemara said there's two reasons. One is because he's causing jealousy in the creations, that God's mercy is on the bird's nest and not on the, maybe not on the other animals. And the idea is, this is based, I don't know if I explained it well yesterday. Maybe I didn't, I'm not sure if I mentioned that there is a mitzvah in the Torah that you're not allowed to take the mother away from its children. And what the mitzvah is, that if you send the bird away, the bird flies away. If you get the bird, you shake the nest and you get the bird to fly away, then you would be allowed to take the eggs or the chickens. But if the mother's on the birds, you can't take the mother away from the birds. And so the person might learn from that mitzvah that Hashem's mercy is to these birds, that the Hashem cares for the mother bird. It shouldn't feel like it's being forced away. That you wouldn't be allowed to take the mother away from its children. So you might think that Hashem's mercy is specifically on the birds more than any other animals. And that's what it seems like when you say that. And the Gemara's term is, you're causing jealousy in the creations. One of the commentaries says it's not that the creations will hear you and be jealous, but it's more that you are going to, by saying this, you're implying like you feel that Hashem, I think the vart is that you feel, I think that's what I saw, that you feel that Hashem is more merciful to the birds than other animals. Let me just read it inside. The ein ikar ha'isur machmas kinas hanevroim el machmas zo pagam b'chved Hashem. You're dishonoring Hashem that Hashem's mercy is not on all creatures equally. Yeah. So it is. So that's the part that that in other words, you're implying it's not you're causing them to be jealous, even though that's the literal translation of the Gemara, but you're mentioning that there is jealousy in the creations, meaning you're saying Hashem's mercy is more on the birds than on the other animals. And that was one explanation. Yes, Ben.
Steinsaltz says that you have rachamim on the bird and not on the efrochim, on the cheeks.
Oh, really? He compares the two.
Not other animals. He's not talking about other animals, just on
versus
that,
the chicks.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Does he have a source? Does he say a name?
Yeah, Dvarim Chav Bet Vav Zayin.
Okay, that's the verse. I'm wondering if there's that explanation. It doesn't have a.
That's what he gives me.
Interesting. Okay, nice.
In other words, don't take the babies in front of the mother. He sends away the mother so you can take the babies.
Right. No, Rashi says that Hashem has mercy on these and not on the other creations. So it doesn't, but anyway, that's okay. I'll have to see if it,
She elaborates on it, I guess.
Oh, okay. Yes, Abraham. You're muted. We can't hear you. So I don't know. It doesn't look like you're muted, but we can't hear you. I don't know why. Your microphone must not be working, Abraham. Avram? Does anyone hear him? Anyone hear Avram? No, we cannot hear you. I don't know. It looks like you're not muted, but it must be your microphone is not plugged in, maybe? Maybe your microphone is not plugged in.
He's not hearing us.
The sound must be off.
Yeah.
So he doesn't hear us.
Avram, we cannot hear you. Yeah. Oh, he doesn't hear us? Okay.
No, he doesn't hear us.
Can you hear us? Avram, can you hear us? Because we still can't hear you. He hears us, but we can't hear you. Okay.
I don't think he could have sat through a whole hour without hearing us.
Check the connection with your
microphone.
With your microphone.
Okay. So my time is really up. Oh boy. Okay. So let me just go over one more thing. I'm just going to take another minute. Let's go over this so that we can go forward. So the second opinion was that because he's saying that Hashem's purpose of mitzvahs is for mercy, and really it's gezeros, it's decrees, and so those are, in other words, we shouldn't say we understand the full extent of the reason why God commanded these mitzvahs, because really there's much more deeper reasons behind the mitzvahs. And by you saying Hashem's mercy is on the birds, what you're implying is that that's the whole reason of the mitzvah. And then we mentioned yesterday, we learned the next little piece of Gemara where one of the rabbis, Rabbah, he was in this shul. In front of him, they had a shliach tzibur, a chazan who got up to daven, and he started adding things to the prayer. He says, Hashem, you have mercy on the bird's nest. Please have mercy on us. And Rabbah praised him and said, oh, that's great. And Abaye said, that's great. What about our Mishnah? Mishaskin, you're supposed to quiet him down, stop him. So Rabbah, the Gemara says, what was Rabbah thinking? So the Gemara says Rabbah was just trying to test Abaye and make sure that he's sharp. And so he initially praised this person to see if Abaye would have corrected, would have stuck up for the Mishnah, and that's where we're gonna have to stop here. Okay, have a wonderful day. We'll see you later.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi. Stay safe.
Thank you. Bye-bye.